Imagine waking up to find the crown's future balanced on a secret kept behind sun-bleached California walls. A woman known only as DL now swears she carried both of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's children, and she's ready to prove it. If her claim stands, two little royals and an entire bloodline could be built on a lie. Buckle up, because the DNA clock just started ticking. Last week, a soft-spoken Californian known only as DL walked into a rented press room and detonated a royal scandal. Calm but unflinching, she said she had carried not one but both of Harry and Meghan's children. According to DL, a Beverly Hills surrogacy agency recruited her under an airtight NDA, moved her into a private estate outside Los Angeles, and barred phones or visitors until the babies arrived. She says doctors came weekly, security screened every doorway, and the promised six-figure thank you fee never materialized. When Archie and Lilibet were born, DL was quietly discharged, her name erased from every document she had signed. Now she's retained lawyers, agreed to a DNA swab on live television, and dares the Sussexes or the palace to call her bluff. If even a shred of her story holds up, two little royals and the line of succession itself could be hanging by a legal thread. But DL's bombshell only landed because doubts about Meghan's pregnancies were already simmering across the internet, doubts that a single viral clip would soon ignite. The reason DL's claim detonated so fast is simple. Doubt has been simmering since 2019. Back then, a brief interview clip showed Meghan easing into a chair only for the bump to appear to crease in half. The footage raced across tabloids and TikTok, birthing the so-called moon bump theory and millions of freeze-frame analyses. Each new public sighting poured gasoline on the rumor mill. One week, the Duchess looked 8 months along. Days later, she barely seemed to show. Even supporters admitted the sizing whiplash was unusual, but brushed it off as camera angles until search spikes for Meghan fake bump jumped 4,000% this spring, proving the suspicion never died. Timeline slips didn't help. On a February 2019 Morocco tour, Meghan reportedly told well-wishers she was about 6 months pregnant, just weeks after palace briefings pegged her at 5. By the time the plane touched down, press notes suddenly promoted her to 7+ months. To skeptics, that fuzzy math felt less like baby brain and more like bad choreography. But video quirks and loose dates are one thing, official paperwork is another. When Archie's birth certificate quietly dropped Meghan's legal name, conspiracy talk morphed into pointed legal questions, and that's where the story gets far more dangerous for the crown. When Archie's official birth record quietly surfaced in June 2019, royal watchers spotted an edit that set alarm bells ringing. Meghan's given names, Rachel Meghan, had vanished, leaving only the title, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Palace aides brushed it off as a formatting tweak, while Meghan's camp later blamed the courtiers, yet no one explained why her legal identity needed erasing at all. To skeptics, the change looked less like punctuation and more like insulation. Under UK law, the woman who physically gives birth is the child's legal mother and must be named on the original certificate, even if a surrogate is used, until a court later transfers parenthood. Removing Rachel Meghan could, critics argue, create just enough ambiguity to dodge awkward questions about delivery rooms, witness signatures, or future perjury claims if a surrogate ever came forward. In other words, paperwork can be massaged, but medical records, NDAs, and DNA swabs are harder to bury. And that's exactly what DL says she's ready to put on the table next. DL isn't just lobbing shocking words, she's waving paperwork through her newly hired legal team. She claims to have kept every scrap hospital intake forms, weekly ultrasound reports, signed by visiting OB-GYNs, agency emails arranging no-phone housing, and the ironclad non-disclosure agreements that muzzled her for years. According to a leaked summary, the medical invoices alone run more than 60 pages and list 2 separate deliveries, both charged to an LA-based client services shell company. But the real headline is DL's offer to submit DNA on camera. Her lawyers have filed notice in California Superior Court requesting a court-supervised cheek swab for herself, Archie and Lilibet. plus an independent geneticist to certify the chain of custody. They say she's prepared for sworn testimony and a televised deposition if the Sussexes refuse. Royal watchers expected rumors, but not receipts. A courtroom petri dish is the last thing Buckingham Palace wants piping into primetime news. For now, the palace remains stone silent, while Meghan's camp issues no denials at all. Yet every sealed folder DL waves turns the silence into an admission of panic. And if judges green-light that DNA test, the monarchy's crisis managers may soon be forced to trade hush for damage control because lab results don't bend to royal protocol. Behind Buckingham's gilded gates, the official line is no comment, yet leaks tell a different tale. Senior courtiers have held back-to-back crisis calls, and according to insiders, are preparing to demand court-supervised DNA tests if Harry and Meghan won't volunteer them first. Publicly, the press office stays mute. Privately, advisors fear that even acknowledging DL could legitimize her claims and trigger constitutional chaos. That vacuum has supercharged the internet. The Sun's recent article on Meghan's baby bump twerking video sent searches for fake pregnancy soaring again, while The Telegraph notes armchair sleuths slicing footage frame by frame to track a bump that seems to shrink, fold, and vanish at will. TikTok timelines are flooded with side-by-side bump montages. YouTube commentators, who once defended the Duchess, now tag videos with #DNA for Archie and rack up millions of views in hours. Even pro-Sussex fan pages are posting open letters that read, "Silence isn't strategy, it looks like guilt." If DL's receipts survive scrutiny, the fallout isn't just another PR bruise, it's a direct hit to the rules that decide who can and cannot inherit the crown. And that legal minefield is exactly where this saga heads next. Here's the legal iceberg lurking beneath the gossip. Under UK surrogacy law, the woman who gives birth is the child's legal mother. Her name must appear on the original birth certificate until a court issues a parental order, paperwork that can take months, sometimes years, to finalize. If Meghan never occupied that delivery room line, Archie and Lilibet's first certificates should have carried someone else's name, raising an immediate red flag over the Her Royal Highness edit slight. It gets harsher. Parliamentary debates around the Succession to the Crown Act explicitly state that only a child who is the offspring of both parties to that royal marriage can inherit the throne. Constitutional lawyers warn that any undisclosed surrogacy, no matter whose DNA was used, could strip a child of titles and bump them out of the line altogether unless the Crown and Parliament intervene. Behind the scenes, senior courtiers are gaming nightmare scenarios, revoke HRH styles, renumber the succession table, even amend letters, patent, if DNA proves DL right. One advisor reportedly called it the biggest legitimacy crisis since 1936, only this time the cameras are rolling. And while barristers argue lineage in oak-paneled chambers, Montecito's fairy tale facade is splintering, setting the stage for the most personal fallout yet. Inside their Montecito mansion, the fairy tale sheen has cracked. Staffers whisper that Prince Harry paces the halls at 3 a.m., phone clutched tight, replaying every decision that led him here. Friends who used to drop by for poolside lunches now get curt text replies or none at all. One source claims the couple sleep in separate wings, meeting only for brief strategy huddles that end in raised voices and slammed doors. The brand fallout is just as brutal. A luxury skincare partner quietly paused a planned campaign after reputation risk reviews. A podcast platform, once eager for another Sussex series, has gone radio silent. Even a stylist who helped craft Meghan's famed maternity looks has unfollowed her on social media, a tiny click noticed by millions of eagle-eyed fans. Harry, insiders say, begged Meghan to issue a public denial. She refused, insisting that addressing the surrogate story would cement it as fact. The standoff leaves Harry stranded between loyalty to his wife and terror that silence equals guilt. Each new headline tightens the vice, royal legitimacy in doubt, their children's future on a knife edge, and the palace poised to strike if proof emerges. All of which funnels into one ticking deadline, the DNA showdown DL is demanding, where lab results could turn a private meltdown into a public implosion. The legal fuse is lit. DL's lawyers have asked California Superior Court to compel cheek swab samples from Archie, Lilibet, and both parents, arguing a public dispute over lineage makes private testing inadequate. The filing seeks a hearing within 30 days, followed by a court-supervised lab analysis broadcast for maximum transparency. Buckingham Palace, terrified of being blindsided on live television, has quietly drafted its own motion. If the Sussexes refuse U.S. jurisdiction, the palace will petition a UK family court for parallel DNA orders, citing the Crown's constitutional duty to safeguard the line of succession. Leaks say royal solicitors have already booked forensic geneticists and a neutral London laboratory just in case. Experts outline 3 outcomes. Scenario A: DL's DNA matches both children, titles are frozen, and Parliament may need emergency legislation to clarify succession rules. Scenario B: she matches only one child, raising the nightmare of split legitimacy. Scenario C: no match at all, DL faces perjury, but the palace still must explain years of bump inconsistencies. Royal reporters call the looming test DNA Day, a single lab result poised to rewrite modern monarchy. And with every hour of silence from Montecito, the question grows louder: when the envelopes open, will they reveal a fairy tale family, or the biggest royal hoax of the century? In a matter of weeks, the truth, or something close to it, will spill from a sterile lab. A single strand of DNA could upend centuries-old tradition, redraw the royal family tree, and leave 2 young children carrying the weight of a decision they never made. Even if DL's claims collapse, the unanswered questions about edits, silence, and shifting timelines will linger, staining the fairy tale glow that once dazzled the world. So ask yourself, if a monarchy built on bloodlines can't or won't prove its own, what else might be smoke and mirrors? And if the Sussex brand survives on narrative alone, who gets to write the next chapter? You, the viewer, or a palace scrambling to protect its crown? The test is coming. When the results drop, will you still believe in the story you've been told, or will you start looking for the seams?